All right, so here we are with another episode of Minecraft, and I built a thing. But before we get into the reconstruction of the beautification of our iron farm, let me run and get my supplies from the draining of the water temple, which we are continuing on in our quest. I did a silly thing in the fact that I flew over with our backup elytra that we got to get my supplies. And unfortunately, before I returned home, because I got distracted by placing more sand, because I enjoy doing that, I accidentally lost all of my supplies. So I had to return. I like how there's just going to be a never-ending, parkour pile of stuff that I'm just going to have to deal with in general. I was smart enough to actually put some water down, even though I apparently didn't need to because most of my supplies was still in water because I hadn't finished the process. But I accidentally had both of my elytra, my main elytra, and my backup elytra were unfortunately in the water, so that was a bit of a bummer. But either way, we got all of our supplies back, so yay us, we did it. I still need to put mending on our backup elytra. Failed on that. But overall, the main goal for this adventure is to cover our iron farm so it looks a little bit pretty. But that also requires us to first take it down and remove some of that supplies. So while I am trying to get out of this hole, here is a slow motion shot for that. As you could see in that slow motion, I also started to build it up after taking it down. I did look up a couple of videos on it. The main thing I had found was the Pinterest board picture that had then been added, had a video that corresponded with it. I'm going to do my best to link it down below. I generally forget, but I will do my best to do it this time. It's not necessarily following the steps because their tower was a little bit taller and their iron farm was set up a little bit differently, but I took some of the general concepts. I also changed the stone so it would match the tower, which is a bit of a bummer because it no longer matches my castle. Not that it really matched my castle to begin with, but it didn't match my castle. So anyways, one thing was that while I was doing that, an iron golem spawned on one of the walls that I hadn't finished putting stairs on, so it actually worked out in my favor because then I didn't have to worry with iron golems constantly spawning. I just kind of left them there because I knew that it would clear out any of my issues with villagers spawning iron golems. As you can see here, I'm in the process of moving my beacon over to the water temple place so that I can have both haste and regeneration because of all of the elder guardians. But we don't really care about that. We're mainly focusing on our iron golem or iron farm situation. So without further ado, let's get back into watching that. So that's the basic structure of the iron farm. I'm getting moss carpets to replace the beautiful white wool carpets that I have down, so it blends a little bit better into the grass. I might get some green at some point too to kind of add some variety, but overall I'm pretty pleased with actually how it turned out. In general, I think it looks kind of cool. I had a little bit of struggles with getting the roof to look right. I think it looks good for the structure that it is, but I don't really think that its style really matches the rest of my structures, unfortunately. So I'll probably at some point have to go back and change that up a little bit just so that it looks a little bit nicer, because right now it looks fine. It just doesn't match the style. I think that's one of the things, is I just need to kind of narrow in on an overall style for the city so that it looks a little bit more consistent, because right now it doesn't feel very consistent. I've got my cool castle and I've got my nifty tower, but they all kind of don't mesh. So maybe I need to take some architect classes or something so it looks a little bit better. But overall, I feel like it's an improvement. It's not nearly the eyesore that it was, which is good. All that I really ask for is it not to be a big eyesore. I also added a bunch of lanterns on it. All of these are slabs and staircases, so technically speaking, nothing can spawn on them. But I also don't really want it to be a really big dark area, because that would be unfortunate. One other thing was the fact that I took the beacon that was over here and I used it over in for my water temple drainage process, which means that I no longer have the regeneration over here, which is unfortunate because I tend to run into things. Thankfully, it wasn't too far away, but I knew that I also put mending on it. Knew that I would need to use my elytra to get up to the top so that I could get all of my stuff with my emergency supplies. One thing is that I'm running out of rockets because of my gunpowder isn't enough, and so that's a bit of a bummer. So I'll have to at some point go in and either sit in my mob farm for a really long time or potentially make a creeper exclusive mob farm, which I think would be kind of crazy because I've never tried to do one of those. I feel like intentionally making creepers spawn goes very much against what I normally do when it comes, because the goal is to get rid of creepers, not to like get them to build or to show up because of how they can break up your stuff. I also will at some point go in and change the carpet that's on the roof, because right now it's super white and I want it to be kind of a darker color so it matches in with the rest of the build. But for now, it is what it is. This is our little iron golem that kind of spawned while we were in the middle of making things, and so it was time for him to go because I needed to make sure that I didn't completely cover my iron farm and break everything, because that would be devastating. So we kind of popped up to kind of take a look at things and make sure that all of my general clock stuff was working, because I had kind of watched it for a while and I could tell that nothing was spawning. Then I remembered the iron golem, which is fine. I'm an expert laddered person. Don't worry about it, guys. I got it. But yeah, so this is like my little tower area, and I don't like the white carpet. I also changed these walls out because I don't like how the walls were working, because I was really nervous that I had done all of this hard work, shot all this cool footage. I say cool footage with lightly, just to have a broken iron farm. I did notice that one of the clocks was kind of off from how it had normally been. I like how I keep hitting it with my firework, but we ended up having to fix that up a little bit, and I ended up changing one of the timing a little bit more. But the biggest thing was the fact that it was just not quite at the rate that it needed to be in order to get the iron golems to spawn correctly for some reason. I don't know exactly the logic behind the clocks, but it was just a little bit off. So I kind of messed around with the clocks just so that I could get the iron golems to spawn correctly, because the last thing that we want is to have a have to go to all of this trouble just to have everything fail and have to tear it all down again. But yeah, so after a little bit of finagling with it, we did end up getting it to fully work. And with that, I think we decided that it was a relative success in the sense that it looks better than it did before, and it is creating iron golems like we wanted to. Again, the roof doesn't really match any of the other styles, but overall, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. Not as pretty as the castle. The castle is very pretty, but it definitely works for what we needed it to do. But yeah, it's much smaller than my other tower, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you liked the video, and subscribe. Maybe next time we will work on our mob farm and make it look better. Or we'll work on a different project. Who's to say? Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.